Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Jameson Maxwell, Ty Lee, and the Oklahoma Sooners have fallen in the Red River rivalry. Let me stop if you've heard this before. In a game that they failed to reach the end zone against Texas, the Longhorns win 23-6, sending Oklahoma to its first loss of the season. Really tough one. Really brutal one. This was a game that Jameson, one thing we said about this, my take on this game was the winner of this game is going to make the least amount of mistakes, and they're going to recover from those. They're going to put pressure on the opposing offense, and they're going to be the more composed team. That was not Oklahoma by any means.
No, it wasn't. And it's a shame, really, because I think for what our first half was as a defense, I think that you can go home and feel really, really happy with that. But now after the first half and the offense not repaying anything back to the defense, you can't expect a defense to do that for a full game. And how many times do we say that exact same thing last year? Just like close your eyes and go back to last year and think about, damn, that defense was so good, but then they just fizzle out in the third and fourth quarter. And because the offense wouldn't give them any energy. It's the same thing again. And it's a shame that it had to happen on Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And it still is a worse Texas offense than it was last year. This is a worse team than the worst Texas team we've seen in a minute. From Sarkisian and then them, that is valid, but it didn't matter. They did an excellent job of really staying steady. They were the more disciplined team, and they're the more composed team on offense. And it was just a backbreaker. It was a backbreaker in that third quarter. That massive drive to kind of kick things off, ending in a touchdown. OU goes 3 and out. And then another massive drive. It's kind of hard to play defense when you're constantly out there just getting run. So, shout out to Lord King, Big Nuts in the chat.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say.
Isn't it crazy that time of possession was essentially equivalent, but it felt like Texas had the ball for the vast majority of the game?
Yeah.
And it might just have to do with those third quarter long drives. Because I think the third quarter, if you break it down, maybe we had the ball like a couple of minutes to the 13 or whatever that Texas had. That's going to be stuck in our brains because that's where the game changed. But
they had 4 offensive plays in the third quarter.
God. That's
they had the 3 and out, and then they got 1 play off before time expired, and sending it into the fourth quarter.
I think one that needs to be said, and of course you probably heard this on other breakdowns of the game, but yeah, you guys have hit on the 2 biggest things, and that's defense, which again, keep in mind, the defense gave up 16 points, which should be enough to win a football game in 2025. This was 1925. Maybe we can get on here and say, what is the defense doing? There was a forward pass that they allowed, but 16 points in a game like this is a tremendous defensive performance. And frankly, right, like you can look at Arch Manning, which we'll get into here in a second, and cherry pick some other stats. Ultimately, the only stat that matters defensively is how many points they are putting up on you. That's all it boils down to. And 16 is an outstanding defensive performance. It's college football. It's not going to be perfect. No one has ever had a perfect defense in college football. So that does need to be said. And then again, like you were kind of touching on, Bobby, you have to give credit to Texas and their staff and their game plan and stuff. Arch Manning specifically, I think it did not look like media hype Arch Manning, but the most composed he has looked all year from Arch for sure. His completion percentage bears that out, and his didn't turn it over and didn't really come that close very much. So it's outstanding performance from Arch. You can tell that they focused a lot on him in their game plan. And it was just a matter of, like we talked about in this big game, minimizing mistakes. It's a neutral site rivalry game, minimizing those mistakes and making sure that you're just playing sound conservative football and not trying to get ahead of yourself, and do something like that kind of inexplicable a touchdown attempt that we did right before half or something like that. Texas just seems a little bit more composed, especially as the game went on, although we certainly looked very strong early on.
I have comments about that throw. And I don't want to be an excuse person because I feel like I could find a lot of excuses in this game, and I don't want to be that person. That's not how I want to ride. But the way John Mateer was looking, I see what he was going for. He was throwing it up to Deion Burks with single coverage and said, I'm going to give my guy 50-50 ball. There's a chance I could get a DPI. And then Risey throws it. Deion Burks turns his shoulders, goes the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. That's a fluke. So I understand people are going to hate on Mateer there. I get it. But in actuality, he was throwing it the right angle that Burks was moving right there. And you go and you throw it to your best wide receiver and hope he makes a play. And there's so many times that we've seen that where that works out. Like a lot. There was one game this weekend. Was it South Florida where they did that and it just ended up working? Like might have not been South Florida, but like this happens all the time where you just throw it up to your best player and they go and make a play and he just turned the wrong direction. Yeah. That just sucks. And what really comes down to, and which really pisses me off, was who the hell is in charge of substitutions? Is it Venables or is it Arbuckle? Because
not on the offense. There's no way it's Venables. Venables is not managing offensive substitutions.
Okay, so who's deciding that who's going in and subbing players when there's a running freaking clock and you don't have the timeout and you send
I know who
people
I would
out?
like to blame.
Who the hell did that?
It's atrocious. It's atrocious game management in a regime that has just constantly had atrocious game management. I will say, I give them credit because it's been better all season. It's been better this entire season, but it was awful. It
had nothing to do with like OU was letting the clock run down. That is not what happened. That is we sent out subs and we had to let Texas do their subs too, and it just took so much time. Yeah. Who the hell is in a 1-minute offense doing subs?
Yeah.
Like, what?
To that point, that does ultimately come under the head coach. Like you have to, that seems like one of those things that you have meetings and establish, SOPs early on in the season of like, hey, here's who's going to make what calls in what situations.
It's got to be Arbuckle.
Like we really didn't,
right? Because he called the play with a different personnel. And like,
I think so. I mean, I'm like off. I'm going to try to research it. Yeah, I'm going to research it. I'm going to look for any way that I can blame it on DeMarco Murray, but it's probably Arbuckle.
Whatever.
That's not a segue. That's just a little teaser.
The next play call, changing your formation and your players that you're going to put out on the field. That is where the problem was. And if we don't go do that and we keep the same people out on the field, we don't have that problem. And I don't want to play hindsight, but we're not going to be put into a situation where our only chance at a touchdown is throwing a go up there and get it ball.
Or you just kick. Or you take the points.
Or you get two passes to the sideline and then you kick a 30-40 yarder.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is it was a game where OU had a lot of chances, to really kind of put the pressure on Texas, get the ball in the end zone. You had essentially 3 real proper scoring attempts in that first half, and 2 ended in a field goal and 1 was that. And to me, that's unacceptable.
And in a game you need momentum, Bobby, you need more than field goals.
Oh yeah. No, you can't win this game with field goals. This isn't 2001 anymore. This isn't, this isn't the old, you're not playing Iowa football. Texas and Sarkisian and that offense, it's too good to let you just hang around and hope you can hold on to dear life with a 6-9 point lead or whatever. Not nice, but it's one of those things that, like, genuinely, it's baffling to me the way that it fell apart, and I think it just goes. It's an overarching theme about this game entirely, is from the coaching staff to the players across the board. Texas was more prepared. They executed significantly sharper, and they're more confident. They knew what they were doing, and that's. They had a physical edge. They had the edge across the board, and that is a hallmark of Sarkisian teams against OU. You can look at it. Since the Venables era started, he has been sharper without a doubt, and that has to change.
Yeah, I would push back a little bit on the players across the board being sharper, because I would argue that, like, especially early on, we were in it in terms of the players' efforts, right? Obviously, there's a skill gap in some of these positions, but like, I mean, early on, especially, and there was a lot of other factors that go into it besides play calling and everything else. But like, Blaylock had some really solid run. 44 yards on the grounds as a team, right, is disgusting. But like, Blaylock had some solid carries for him, especially like his effort. If you look at, continuing to drive the feet, hit low, make it through first contact, and everything else, like, you can tell that he is improving. And I point him out specifically because we'll get into the run game a little bit later. Mateer, obviously, kind of an uncharacteristic performance from him, but like, the effort was there, obviously, too.
I love Bobby's camera move.
I didn't know what
I forgot the camera moves.
Oh, it looked like you were throwing up to me.
No.
I mentioned the run game. You just hunched over, and then the camera was like zoomed in on your head.
Talk about the
I was
run
being
game.
attacked by a bug.
To throw up.
Okay, but yeah, no, I think for me, and this is not a bit, but it is a coaching thing. You can look at it and you could tell that in Texas's game plan, they had prepared their guys for the fact that they were going to get punched in the mouth early on, and it was going to be hard, and they needed to stick in it, because really, this was anyone's game until late in the third. So it was, I think you saw a drop off from our offense, but I don't think you really saw it from our defense, but you definitely did not see a drop off in effort from Texas. And to me, that's a coaching issue.
Yeah, Texas knew that we couldn't throw the ball down the field, and they stacked.
Well, they knew we couldn't run either, is the problem.
Well, the thing is, like, it's going to even look worse if they know that we're already baseline a poor running team. But in actuality, the way that John Mateer was throwing the ball on the first drive looked really good. But whenever you kind of looked at it and you squinted your eyes, you go, does that guy really have his full zip on that ball? Is he really gripping that ball and having that little power grip that he has that you need from that thumb? No. And that's where you can get a defensive adjustment really quick. You say, I don't believe that this guy can go out and do this part of the game, so we're going to shrink the field on him. And that's what they did. And it really screwed us. And it makes you think, like, do you think Hawkins could have done any better? I honestly, I feel like the offense looked almost equivalent to what we would have seen from Hawkins too.
Yeah,
I would have.
And I think it was a situation where and Mateer said it himself. The biggest issues he had were mental. He's
not a type of guy though that he's going to blame it on his thumb though.
No, I get that.
So I'm not buying a single lick into that comment, because I know that was a big thing all on Twitter.
I get it, and of course, grip strength, as you've mentioned, it's going to be an issue going forward.
Yeah, for 2 months is what a hand surgeon told me, just in regards to the injury itself after surgery. 2 months of decreased grip strength. Yeah,
and that I know he's talking about pain, etc., but if you mechanically can't grip that ball, like, I'm sorry, that's just not it.
Right, that's the right term, and not pain, because pain's just fine. Like, I can push through pain. It's all just like getting through post-op recovery.
That can but if you can't perform, stuff, though, like but I do think, like you had touched on in one of the pregame pods, Jameson, even just tweaking that mechanic, because a human hand is such a fine, instrument. Like, even if he's not feeling pain, even if it feels normal, he's having to relearn those fine motor skills and those specific nuances that can be really challenging. But I feel like there was some uncharacteristic decision making that I would probably assume could have to do with maybe pain and then a lot of pressure as well.
How much of the decision making is Ty, and you just said it, that he's having to relearn some of these things, and whatever he used to be able to do, he can't do. And so therefore, all of that, thing that is subconscious you do as a quarterback is now becoming conscious. We talk about this all the time. I say it all the time. As soon as you think about what you're doing out there on the football field, you're done. You should not think. You should just feel and just react. And when he can't be a reactionary player whenever he knows deep down, can I make that throw? I don't know if I can make that throw across the field. I got a guy coming up the middle. Do I believe in myself to do that? That half second and that doubt there causes interceptions. Like, Texas and college football players are too good to allow that to happen.
Well, and I think too, a big problem, he just kind of keyed in on his first option too often. He didn't look at checkdowns. There are several instances where you'd look at guys wide open and he doesn't go to them instead because he's having to key in on his first option, mainly because his offensive line was giving him no time for a lot of this game.
Yeah, and how much is that scheme too, Bobby? How much is saying, hey, I don't want you in the pocket for 4 or 5 seconds. I want you to get it to your first read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that might be another injury thing there. I think that, like Ty, you said it. There's first level of recovery from injury. It is your pain and what you can do. That's first level. Think down the line. I think that's our problem here. Let's shift our thinking of what can the injury cause them to do worse at. Not just the injury itself, but what mentally and what schematically is changing. And I think that was the problem.
Yeah. And for me, and this is kind of a circle back earlier, but I know I said this pre-pod. I'm not trying to start a debate here. I would have liked to have seen Michael Hawkins because I think that, like we've talked about with Mateer's run game, his run game was clearly dialed back too. And the few times he tried to run, he got his thumb hit and was getting, I assume, glued up or something on the sideline.
He had just like, I think more proximal.
Yeah.
To like where more closer to like, it wasn't as far down where on the thumb.
Yeah.
Like he had like a cut that was bleeding.
But I think you can put Michael Hawkins in and at a minimum get significantly more aggressive with your running from the quarterback, which is something that Michael Hawkins can do. And like, frankly, and I'm not trying to slight Michael Hawkins or anything here, but when you've thrown 3 interceptions, it's like, is it gonna, like, could it possibly get worse? It's already not working. We're just continuing to hurt him. I know Mateer didn't want to come out, but I would have liked to have seen, yes, a bit of hope.
So you would have wanted a bench.
This isn't like a Caleb Williams.
You can't.
That's I don't know, because we already seen how that happens, and that can derail a season fast.
I've seen
it out.
Hey, and this goes back to a little bit I do have of the last 5 OU players to score a touchdown in Red River, but I've seen that Caleb Williams Spencer Rattler game, which here's a fun fact. If
Hawkins is Caleb Williams?
No, I don't think he is. That's the thing. You're never going to convince me after seeing that benching your quarterback in Red River when you're already down is going to be a bad call. But
it's bad. And I think where it comes down to is like Mateer was physiologically, medically ready to play, but was he mentally ready to play? Not quite there. And I don't think that's anything you can do because I think he's a gamer. I think he's an absolute gamer. And if there's any player or any quarterback in the country to have this kind of injury, I would feel very confident. Him, like, gamers like a quarterback that I believe that have that it factor. Like Castellanos, I know they just lost, but that guy's got an edge to him. He'll go out and he probably would have done the same thing in this. Mateer, it's those guys. Arch Manning, I would be a little bit more worried about. Like that he would actually say, you know what, I feel good to play, because like his mental fortitude that we've seen has been a little bit broken.
We're 18 minutes in, and you're like, you know what, we're just going to do ad hominem attacks of
Texas. But I'm saying is like there was no chance that Mateer wasn't going to play because he's always going to take on the challenge, and he believes in himself to do it. And
he is a bit like a college Kirk Cousins if you gave him Baker's attitude.
I'm trying to figure out what that means.
Attitude on the field.
Well, I will say there's no way of knowing what his attitude's going to be like in that environment. You're just you can't be like, oh, is he mentally ready for it? Like you don't know. You have to trust that
maybe
he is, and
subconsciously ready is maybe what I'm going for. Maybe not.
But how do you know that? Like,
you
just gotta let him go.
You just do it.
Yeah.
You just do it. You just send him out. You send out your best player on offense, and you just say, "Hey, go out there and figure it out." And it didn't work out for us. That first drive, him throwing the ball, which I didn't get to freaking watch because ESPN on the Fire Stick is. Don't get me started. I'm so pissed. That legitimately was the most angry I was the whole game because I couldn't freaking watch it because the ESPN app. But like, I don't think Mateer, like watching it back, I don't think Hawkins makes those throws straight up. So I think it's a little bit of give and take. But at the same time, it would have been nice to have that excuse in the back of our pocket, be like, oh, well, we didn't have Mateer and we had Hawkins, and like we could spin it a lot better right now. And that's just more for my coping.
Yeah. And I think that's I get you never know, but I think in that situation we know enough about Michael Hawkins Jr. and John Mateer to know that just gotta let John Mateer go, and we've said it all year. He's a gunslinger. He makes risky throws. He's had, I know he's had a good amount of interceptions, especially
almost
on
in every
Saturday.
game he's played.
Yeah, every game he's played, he'll throw at least one pick or one turnover, and you'll have a couple plays where you look at it and you're like, he got a little lucky. He got lucky on a couple of these throws, for God's sake. If you actually look at it, he could have had more picks. It could have been a disaster. He kind of plays the game a little on the edge of disaster at all times, and I think that's something you got to live with sometimes. But
yeah, and I think there was some plays too, like we mentioned, we were talking about it in one of our text chains. It's like Mateer saw a ball. Someone was running a crossing route. It was Satania was running a crossing route and against the zone, and you're supposed to stop in the soft spot. And he did it. And Mateer threw it to the soft spot. That's just like, working with receivers and getting that chemistry. And this is a guy who's been throwing it to him for less than a year now. And it's like those are things that you hope to see from players and kind of realizing that.
Can I say real quick while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, Giovanni Gibson's pass where he took a hit as a receiver, shrugged it off, and then kept his eyes downfield and kept moving and looking for a pass. And then was it Burks that came back to get the catch? Obviously, we didn't get the first down, but the eyes downfield and awareness under pressure from a non-quarterback, and then the throw that was really solid to back it up was I don't know if he played quarterback in high school or something, but that was pretty awesome to see.
Dude, like that play, and then the one where we needed a short gain and we put in Jaden Jackson, David Stone in the run game in the first half. Those are points where I was feeling pretty chill about this game. I was like, we're not scoring well, but we look good on defense and we're having some fun moving the ball right now.
Yeah. That we just, I don't know. We did look solid. They obviously just adjusted better.
In all truth, I was confident at half. I thought the defense was going to carry us home. I felt like maybe adjustments would happen. But overall, I felt like Oklahoma was the better team in that first half, just given how good the defense was looking. I felt like the offense, I was like, maybe they'll, figure it out. Maybe it'll click. And it didn't. Texas was better in the middle third.
Frankly, I thought the game was in hand until the punt return touchdown. It's because it's
okay.
Okay, not in hand. I thought it was attainable. Yeah, because it's that kind of game where a play like that is going to be the deciding factor, even if you're better or worse. And like those plays can happen to anyone at any time in a rivalry game. Like it could have been OU that returned it, and then what would have happened? Or, we could have had a pick or a fumble or recovery or something. Like just something like that is always going to be the nail in the coffin in a game like this. We've said it a bunch in the pregame, and a lot of people said that across the media as well. And just unfortunately, that went Texas's way. And it's not to say it's all luck, right? Like great effort and execution by the players. I'm not going to do the Auburn fan thing and argue about blocks in the back or something like that. Like they happen in college football. That's just how it is. But it's not like it was a blowout the entire time, regardless of how you feel about it after. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's definitely could have been worse. It definitely could have been better, but it definitely could have been worse.
It was a situation. It was a situation where I really think the defense played. I thought they played really good, but it was the type of game where if the offense isn't giving you that, you have to play better than really good. You have to play elite. You have to have the game-breaking plays on defense. You have to sack Arch Manning more than one time. You have to generate a turnover. You've got to do something like that. And I think that might be. Is that unreasonable to ask? Probably, yeah. But it's just given what the offense is giving you, that's unfortunately just the way it had to be for the defense to play well enough to win this game by themselves. And I mean, Jameson, we talked about it. That was our biggest talking point was we thought the defensive line and the defense was going to make life hell on Arch Manning, and Texas I thought did a really good job of kind of navigating out of that.
Yeah, I think the scheme was really well. Like we got plenty of pressure. Like you saw, our Mason Thomas was having a heyday on him out there, but they were getting the ball out quick and they were running run game where it really put our defense into this kind of fickle position. I mean, like, you got to give like props to Sark and what he did at halftime to adjust to that. And also Trey Wisner, like, this is a guy we know is a really damn good player and is returning back from injury. And he showed out in that second half. Like, when it comes down to it, whenever you're looking at the defense to say, hey, you win the football game for us, be perfect, help a team that only got 2 field goals, there's going to be drives where they're going to chip away. Like that first drive of the third quarter, like they had 3 third down opportunities, including the one that was the touchdown at the end. But it's like, that's going to happen in college football and in football in general. Like, the offense is at an advantage right now. And there's plenty of points to be had. Like, you just got to assume with a team as talented as Texas with their weapons that they will put up, a couple of touchdowns in a game. That's like what we said, like, like we need to get into the 20s to win this game. And we weren't there.
I think that's an important point too, looking at this game holistically, like we've kind of been talking about, but you can really tell that Texas's offensive scheme was really centered around knowing that they were going to get into the end zone eventually at some point, and it was going to be hard, but also making sure to do everything they could to minimize chances of, turning the ball over. And frankly, it's been something that we've been really weirdly terrible at generating for such a tremendous offense. But you can tell that they really scheme for that. And we were able to do, again, defensively, everything we needed to do with 16 points allowed by the defense. But it's just, there's like, if you can't score, it doesn't matter how great your defense is.
Yeah, and that third quarter was just gut-wrenching of like having 5 third downs on those drives and just can't stop them. That 6th one was obviously the one that was like a 19 yards, and they still gained a lot of room to get themselves into field goal position. So honestly, I'd say 6 failures of third downs, and you got to point the finger at the defense on that one. They could have done a lot better. But it's like that's just going to happen in football, and that's why, like, whenever you go out there as a defense and you don't do well, you lean on your better half in offense. And we didn't have a better half in this game. Like, if you look at the odds, if you want to critique the defense in this, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, look what Vegas put out for over under in the spread. Closed at 2.5 to Texas with an over under of 44.5. So the implied score would be just around Texas 24-ish, OU 21-ish, correct? So that Texas scored 23. So that's kind of what Vegas was doing. And Oklahoma's offense gave them no opportunity to either get A, momentum, or B, less time on the field to where the Oklahoma's offense can go and succeed and put Texas's defense down. So there's nothing that I can say about this defense to say, like, you did worse than what I thought you were going to do.
Yeah, another important piece there is the defense is always a little inherently disadvantaged. If it's an even matchup, the defense is always a little inherently disadvantaged coming out from half because of the adjustments. Like, you're pretty reactionary even in the best defense. Like, you have to adjust to what the offense is doing, and the O, especially when they're well coached with a lot of talent, is going to have that advantage in a fairly even matchup of being able to make adjustments and look at the film and tweak what they're doing beyond just like, there's more tweaks you can make on the offense to really make a difference. So I give them a little slack there, but yeah, it's third downs, 10 for 17. You would have loved it to be better, especially like you said, that one drive, but goes back to the offense, goes back to, again, knowing that we had a one-dimensional offense, and that one dimension was literally had a broken hand. Was not awesome.
It's a situation where I feel like we have so many places on that offensive staff where you can see the rot, and we've kind of known the rot for a little bit, but we've done nothing to dig it up. And I feel like
sometimes that rot's so bad and you can't even use a shovel on it, Bobby.
You got to level the house. You got to level the house sometimes. And that's my thing. That's tricky about this. I know a lot of people are pointing at our buckle for it. Young OC, I get it. But there's some issues with this team that need to be addressed, I think, regardless of what happens the rest of the season. Even if Brent Venables, keeps his job, if OU goes 9-3, 8-4, finds a way to recover it, I think there are things you have to work on. The tight end room is atrocious. We knew it would be atrocious because they got nobody in the portal outside of some folks from like Kennesaw State in East Popcorn University, and then had to convert a linebacker to tight end. It's the blocking side of it is just pitiful. Joe John Finley, it's
Kanik is a pitiful blocker. God,
he is.
I feel so bad. We weren't expecting him to be a blocker, but
he's not the worst on this offense.
Oh my God, it cost us multiple times. Yeah. Penalties there.
Kanik's blocking Carson was Kent's the reason Mateer broke his thumb. Just saying.
Yeah,
I'm not putting that on.
Clearly a massive issue. Yeah, I know. But,
okay, if we're gonna get the slander people, I have some talking points. Bobby, can you clarify? Are we gonna get the slander or no?
Look, we're talking about the football, okay? Like seriously, for the love of God, seriously, we're only talking about football.
Jameson's the one over here saying that he's breaking people's hands and stuff.
Well,
that was a joke.
Well, it could be worse. He could have gone full Booger McFarland on that one, Jameson.
Look, they were in the
how the hell is he still employed? God. ESPN goes through layoffs and they take off some of the most brilliant minds in all of their commentary, and somehow Booger has a job still. Yeah, what?
You fire Zach Lowe, but keep Booger McFarland and Kendrick Perkins. But anyways, yeah, it's just the tight end room has been a mess for years, and it needs to change. The running back room, still a mess. It is confusing. Somehow, after being just locked away, Xavier Robinson gets a start out of nowhere. That can't be good. We don't even need to talk about Jaden.
No, we do, because you brought him up and you had hope again.
Failure on my end.
No, but Bobby didn't put him in the game.
It's not
Bobby
my
didn't
fault.
put him in the game.
No, it is not your fault.
Bobby didn't give him hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened with that.
Please tell me you've at least seen the replay, or at least we're keenly watching the Deion Burks crossing like little jet like little read option kind of play. That effort from Jaden Ott to just sit there, look scared, and not go after Anthony was just embarrassing. That's everything we've heard of.
I'm not trying to defend him. I'm not trying to defend him, Jameson, but have you seen the fully zoomed out version of that play? That's actually on Burks. He needed to cut it out wide.
No, you go up. That is your assignment. That is Jaden Ott's assignment. You go up there and you hit him.
What he should have done is peel back on him.
No, yeah, the angle is
you gotta be doing something. You gotta be active.
Anthony Hill to do something. No, you go up and you hit him, and then you choose your angle from the way that he responds to the block. No, you don't just play 2 yards off of him, and then Anthony Hill can be the aggressor, one of the best open field tacklers in the college football, and just it became useless there. That is not Deion Burks. Yes, could he have slowed down a little bit? He went a little too fast, but that's a play where there's a lot of momentum, and you've got to run up field. He's already got the ball. You do not wait. I'm not going to hear anything to defend.
Just watch the play at least, Jameson. Watch
zero bit of dog in him. Zero. That dude.
I mean, I agree, but you watched the play. You needed to cut it wide. You needed to cut it wide.
I don't care. Cut it wide. Cut it inside. Jay Knott's got to go hit a guy.
I mean, I agree with you. Horrible look on tape, and in general, horrible look on tape. It's a misfire. It's a mess. Without a doubt, that's a disaster.
Monte Barnes would at least freaking hit him, put him in the game at this point. Like,
yeah,
honestly,
but even like the internal development, that's almost the thing that upsets me more than anything is the internal development of guys. You see guys drop off the face of the planet for no reason, apparently. And it's one of those things that's tricky because it's like, oh yeah, you could get excited about Torrey Blaylock, what he's doing, but guess what's going to happen next year? He's going to disappear again because DeMarco Murray does this with literally every single promising running back. They get a little bit of juice, looks a little good, and then out of nowhere they just vanish. And I think there's an ongoing theme with all of these issues with coaches is they all have a degree from the University of Oklahoma or left early for the draft. And it's so clear to me that this whole nepotism-y thing that they've done, it's gone on too far. If you look at all of the coaches that succeed at OU, they're the ones that, Brent brought in from Clemson or brought in elsewhere. And that's that's what you do. That's how you succeed. You hire people who are good at their job, not because they have a flashy name and not for the member berries. So OU fans can clap like a seal and be like, "Oh, I remember him."
Yeah, I agree with
here's
Ty.
the
Get
thing.
DeMarco out of there.
Yeah, and here's one of my big arguments for him. And I understand people have some issues with Bill Bedenbaugh as well, but he's still recruiting really well, right? Can you point to like DeMarco landing massive recruits, because that's apparently been one of his
He's
great
done
value
really damn
adds.
well at recruiting.
But what does it matter if they can't play?
Yeah,
if he can't develop them
Yeah.
and they do not see the field, what does that do?
That's what I
Does
mean.
it help
And
you having a high recruiting class if they can't play football? If you have a Taylor Tatum who has vanished, and I know some of that's due to like some nagging injuries and stuff, but it's disturbing how this happens over and over and over.
Xavier Robinson this season, Bobby. Like you
Yeah.
don't even talk about Taylor Tatum. Like Taylor Tatum showed some problems last year, but Xavier Robinson looked like freaking Derrick Henry light at the end of the season.
Tatum, even healthy, was always had a security issue.
And he's your 5-star guy, though. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's about your recruits. Like it's about the whole thing is just a mess. But
that's what I mean, though, is like recruiting. And this was my second point of that. Is, and Jameson knows, he's as well. Like you guys know recruiting. It's a two-way street. It's not just about I have insert name with maximum number of stars next to his name. It's how legit are those stars? Is this really a good guy? Can I really spot and like scout talent? And it's like anyone can go out there
Hollywood
and just
others playing. Look at the way Gavin Sawchuk's playing right
now. Anyone can go out there and just pull up 247 and start going down the running back list and just calling people and saying, "Hey, I'm DeMarco Murray from the University of Oklahoma. Would you like $1 million?" Like of course you can do that and you'll hit someone in the top 10 every year doing that. But it's like you have to actually be able to recognize the talent and then coach and develop that talent. And it's like, unfortunately, I think at this point, it's just not there. I would prefer someone like hired in over that could fix it and he could stay on staff, because I do have a bit of that nostalgia still. Like I don't want to disgrace and fire DeMarco Murray from this staff, but it's like we can't not have a run game. And it's beyond like he has never been in charge of a room unilaterally that has been successful. And that hasn't been like not even like a problem piece, but just like a very confusing, like it's always like, okay, he's going to get it. Like we've given him the funds, we've given him the support, like he's got it. And then it's just like, what is even going on? Like that dude did great for 2 carries. Now I've been never going to see him again. I've been like straight up never going to see this dude again touch the field, and I'm going to get no explanation. And it just doesn't, I don't know. It almost feels like I don't know, like we're blindfolded and just like throwing darts or something at the wall, or I don't even know like a good analogy. It's just, it's confusing. It's confusing how terrible it's been, because you can't even point to anything specific beyond the guys just aren't getting coached. And also like, what are we doing with like 15 different dudes that just come in and then you never see them again?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's confusing because at the end of every season, I feel like there's momentum, and I feel like we might even see that this year somehow. But you can't believe it, you can't trust it, because I just don't. Jameson, I don't get it. I do not understand it. I wish this worked out. I like DeMarco Murray, loved him at OU, but at a certain point, you got to start producing, and it hasn't worked at all.
Yeah,
and this is a university where we produced some damn good running backs over the years. It's never been. It has not been this bad in a long time.
We got to stop just throwing out our history. That's really what it is. Let's just talk about our current coaching staff. I don't care that Adrian Peterson went to Oklahoma anymore. That doesn't matter.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a standard, Jameson.
I know. What I'm saying is
what did AD do?
It's a standard. No, what I'm saying, it's a standard. But honestly, like all of that is expectation. Like production wise, it doesn't matter at all anymore.
Well, I mean. Sure, but I'm not saying we're good at running back because we're OU, but you should want to strive for something. This isn't...
of course. I agree with you. I understand. I'm not coming after your take. I think that when it comes down to it's a perfect storm right now of an extremely poor offensive line when it comes down to run blocking that aren't healthy, that is a huge part. Then a running back room that is relying on a true freshman because everyone is fizzled out, and then a coaching staff which just has poor development. So it's like, where's the positive? And also another thing, I don't think we've talked about this enough of Jay Knott. How much do you think that's impacting the rest of the running back room too? Just his poor attitude, lack
I
of
don't
work
think so,
ethic,
because
and then continuing to say, we'll answer the questions in the post game, and then he goes out there and gets plays. I guarantee you, if I'm Xavier Robinson or if I'm Javonte Barnes, I see that guy go on the field, I'm pissed.
I think that's good. I think that's a positive. I think, like, you see a guy, if you're a guy like Blaylock, presumably, that has a good attitude, as we've seen with just the effort that he gives out there, I think that should fire you up. You should be, why is he the highest paid dude in the room? Besides DeMarco Murray, who's producing even less, arguably. And I think that if you have a real
what happens if I see a guy that continues to get chances for not working? Is that going to make me want to work harder whenever I see that guy is working harder? But I can do the same thing.
Here's the problem, though. I think it does. Sorry to cut you off, Bobby, but I think it does make you work harder, and it does make you grind. But if you're a true competitor, if that's not rewarded and you don't get that recognition, then you hit the portal. Why wouldn't you? Like, it's like, go prove that you're a dog and can put it all out there on the field. And then if we're still going to throw Ott in there, we're still going to play around and not commit to, like, if we're going to put a ton of different dudes in, at least play them to their strengths. Like we talked about, like, put the blockers in the block, like everything else. It's like, when a dude like that gets fired up and then hits the portal, like, I don't think you can blame him. And
the problem is they do. That's why we're seeing success with former OU running backs out there. Like, it's
wherever they go. Obviously, a lot of them play much lesser competition, but
still,
ACC.
It's the ACC, but like, that's still respectable college football competition.
Minnesota does not play in the ACC.
We're not talking about Marcus Major.
He is germane to the discussion at hand.
But I mean, like, Tawee Walker also did pretty decently, but like, he also had similar output whenever he was at the end of Oklahoma. So that I don't know if that's, like, I think the more so is, like, I don't know if I can really hit Hollywood Smothers too much because we wanted him to stay and he just was impatient and is a true freshman and he wanted to play immediately. So I get that. But whenever it comes down to Sawchuk, that was a amicable ending. But at the same time, like, we've already seen that song and dance, how he did well at the beginning of his career, started not to do well, and now he's doing great again. That it just hurts, honestly. It's just a lot of pain.
Because they go elsewhere and get actual development. That's the thing. It's ridiculous.
Or some run blocking offensive line.
Let's talk about some O-line here as well.
It's like having to start or play Buklenko for the majority of that game sucks. It just sucks. Mm-hmm. And it's not like, I'm not going to dog too much on Buklenko because I feel like he did what he could out there. But it's just like, we at the University of Oklahoma and this football team right now, like, it sucks to be in that position where you're on tackle number 4. It just sucks whenever you're a true freshman at left tackle and then you're tackle number 4, tackle number 5 on the right side. Like, you're forced to run in between the tackles, and we've already shown that our guards do not get good push in the run game.
I just don't know how it keeps happening year after year. Like, you think it's going to turn it around. You think kind of do the whole trust beating both thing. It just doesn't. I just don't get it, man.
I think it's only going to get better, though. You'd hope, because like Fasusi's shown some great things as a true freshman, and Foje showed some great things. I mean, you can continue to try to find cope there, but and obviously, it's like with injuries, a lot of it's just luck. I think people try to find trends, and there's a whole business in it, but a lot of it's just unluckiness, especially with how many high ankle sprains that we got in a row right there. That's all just getting rolled up on. That's just getting rolled up on. That you can't change that. We just got unlucky breaks.
This is the part
I know, but it's consistent unlucky breaks, and it's frustrating. And I know this is a long-term sort of deal, and they've had good moments, but it's frustrating when you've had, a bye week and Kent State and time, and you're still dealing with injuries again, and you don't have the depth to do it to survive. Like you said, Beklenko, like, obviously that sucks to have him out there, but you're doing the best you can, because that's when you're hitting the Luke Beklenko of your depth, that's really frustrating. And having fourth and short instances and throwing out D linemen to shore it up. That's
What would
tough.
we have done if we would have lost Buklenko?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
I
would have
really
pulled out.
don't know.
What's the Oklahoma State quarterback, Sam Jackson the fifth or something? We would have pulled a random who knows what off the scouts or Kanik.
I think we would probably
you're
would have
moving positions
out
again,
tackle,
brother.
and we would have put Fudge in, but it would have just been it's just a recipe for disaster. And I mean, I think like there's a lot of things with Texas to be frustrated, like the tackling. That's the one thing that Brent Venables wanted to talk about all the time because that's what he wants to control as a defensive coach. And I understand a lot of people are pissed off because a lot of the problem wasn't the defense, but at the same time, I can't get out of my head in the beginning of third quarter, we get an R. Mason Thomas sack, and then it's 3rd and long, and they throw it to their check down and Trey Wisner. And was it Kendall Daniels came down and missed the tackle? Or was it Kendall Dolby? It was somebody. It was whoever was playing the cheetah. Yes, Kendall did it. I should have just said Kendall. Missed the tackle. And then second player came up and could have made a tackle, didn't. And it's just like those plays add up, and that's just like a dagger. We just got a huge momentum play coming out of the half. R. Mason Thomas got a sack. We feel like we were getting good pressure on the quarterback out there, and then the check down is what gets you. Like that takes the wind out of your sails real quick.
Yeah, and I mean, if we want to talk about that, it's the finer points of the defense. The tackling, wasn't great. There were some missed opportunities. I think Wisner had a really big one as well, like kind of inside zone pop free there. But they had a lot of all of their big plays were mostly controllable. Like situations where OU had them kind of buckled or buttoned down and just let them off the hook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of things in this game. I think, like I said, it's like everything went wrong. Yeah, everything went wrong.
Not a single good break. Not a single good break.
And even if a couple breaks went our way, it wasn't going to go because you've got to have more things right than wrong.
Well, no, there were definitely good. I mean, like they missed that field goal to start was an awesome momentum.
Yeah, 2 missed field goals was big.
For continuing to ride that, that seemed like that was going to be a lot more relevant than it ended up being. I'll say that, but that definitely did seem like that was going to be relevant at the time. But yeah. Also, I know I mentioned this in our text, but every time I heard Shipley coming out for Texas, my ears perked up a little bit. I didn't get scared, but it's one of those like your ears perk up a little bit because you know that there could be something there, and then you realize it's the kicker who's going to go like 50%.
Well, and then you got a kick return out of that, so there you go. Any final thoughts on this before we look ahead to next week?
I think my kind of overweening thing on this, like my closing statement on this is I, like many of you all, want to get really, really angry, throw things, say bad things, but that's not going to do anything positive for us right now. Obviously, I'm not on the coaching staff. I'm not in the locker room. I have no say. What I'm saying right now has nothing to do, but as a fan, sometimes we like to do this because we get entrenched in the team. There were clear reasons why losing this game it's not okay, but like it makes sense. Like this was the preseason number 1 team in the nation. I understand that they lost 2 of their big games this year, but the Ohio State game was still close, and playing in Florida in the swamp is obviously very tough. This was a very, very talented football game with a lot of good players and a neutral site game rivalry where anything can happen. And we lost. And I think a lot of that comes down to whenever your leader is hurt and we didn't get a lot from the offense. It really does take everyone's wind out of their sails, including the defense and the rest of the auxiliary pieces on offense. And with recovery from a surgery and getting back into it and like teaching your mind to get back to where you were pre-injury and believing in yourself to throw certain balls, that'll get better every single week. So I don't anticipate John Mateer to have this kind of game for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think it's a situation where it's very fair to be mad. Rivalries matter. Texas matters a lot, and we've talked about this, a ton. And historically, that's something that is said to the new ball coach at OU is, all you have to do is beat Texas, and we're going to be happy, and all of that. And I get it. This sucks. It stinks. Venables has a Texas problem, but in this version of college football, where you can take some losses and you can take some hits, this isn't the end of the road. And there have been a lot of OU teams throughout the years who have found ways after losing bad Texas games, who look at the issues that bubbled up to the surface and address them and fix them. And that's what's on the line for OU next. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat this or be like, oh, what's it that bad? It was bad. This is frustrating and it's going to haunt us. But it's one of those where they still have an opportunity to prove themselves. And for me, I obviously am pissed, but there's still opportunity on the horizon for OU to figure this thing out. But it's going to have to, you have to figure it out quick. So,
yeah, I got a couple things that the first two largely echo the things that y'all said, or play off of some things that you said. Like Jameson said, you probably want to go.
I said playoffs.
Say a bunch of like Jameson said, you probably want to go say a bunch of angry things and be all upset and everything else. And like you said, that's not going to help anything, but it's also not going to hurt anything, and it's probably going to be fun to do. So you should do that. I've been doing it, and I can confirm it is fun, and it makes your friends like Bobby Jameson feel worse, but it makes you feel better because you feel like you have some control over the situation. So absolutely, chant fire people on message boards and stuff. But yeah, like Bobby said, there have been much better OU teams that have had much more promising seasons that have been derailed by a bad Texas loss. I mean, another team that was let down by DeMarco Murray comes to mind with the 2008 OU football team. Are we going to make it to the national championship? I don't know. And that was an injury. Bobby has requested that I say that was an injury.
No, it's the stupidest talking point you've ever had. And I don't know that.
That's not
Bobby.
There are some really bad ones, but accusing DeMarco Murray of sitting out is one of the dumbest things I've heard in my life.
It wasn't his fault.
We're not going to dive into that.
And okay. I didn't actually mean to get Bobby fired up, because my last piece was I wanted to end on a positive and ask Bobby about the fair, but I don't think he wants to.
Yeah, let's talk about the fair.
Yeah, fair was neat. I think a lot of just kind of happy to be there. Didn't do a lot of walking around this year before, just because we had to kind of find a new solution, because Beer Barn RIP kind of got screwed over. They sort of changed the entry point to kind of put everyone they replaced the picnic tables with cattle pens essentially. So that whole Cotton Bowl Plaza was not a place to hang out by any means. But it's always good to be back at the fair. I had
found 3 coupon beers.
Found 3 coupon beers. So the prices are moving down more than just the Beer Barn. So that's good to see. Shout out to Nevins.
How is the situation around there? Is it a good place to hang out?
Yeah, no, there's so they kind of put all of the chairs further back. So a nice little shady trees area. So you're able to kind of get some together to kind of, kind of make it similar to what you had before. So that was nice, at least, I will say. So that wasn't bad. Ran into a man dressed up like the Woofus. That was great. He gave me a bracelet. So that was cool.
Brisket would have been cool too.
Yeah, the brisket. Yeah, the brisket crepe thing was good. Didn't try anything else outside of that, and the classic corny dog, of course.
Such a shame we lost our lemon opportunity. But it's okay.
I wanted that. I wanted to eat that lemon so bad. I wanted that victory lemon. I really did.
Yeah.
But all of the Cotton Bowl improvements that they talked about did not work. They didn't work at all.
It's like putting an escalator on a pig.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Well, they're like, the escalators will make getting in and out way easier. I was like, that doesn't seem right. But I also don't know enough about escalators to debate this point. Nope, they broke, and
they broke.
They broke. Yeah, no, getting out of the game, escalators totally broken. So people just had to kind of walk down them. There was no control on the escalators of usually there's someone be like, oh, we've reached the amount of people on the escalator. simply you got to take a break. There was no one doing that. People were just going down there. They overloaded the escalators. Almost caused a crush situation. Not good. Not good.
That's not. I shouldn't be laughing.
It was what it does look nicer. That side of the Cotton Bowl is it looks nicer. It's prettier, but I don't think it's better.
They jazzed it up for the Insta pics. They did the classic HGTV Reno where they just slapped some paint on it and some new countertops.
It was pretty.
Break a wall down.
I ran into Glenn Powell in the elevator. That was cool. But yeah, it was just the little plazas up on the upper deck were neat. The scoreboard was broken across the way, so it constantly said it was 3rd and 3, and that wasn't great. That wasn't good. Couldn't hear a single thing from the PA announcer the entire game. So
Jesus, this is bad.
It was sounds bad. Like going to an Arizona State game.
I love the Cotton Bowl. They failed us big time, and Lino in the comments is saying, just give us massive ramps. They had massive ramps. We had it, and they got rid of them.
Do you think
the fools?
I have a serious question after this, so don't cut me off. Do you think that there's a potential that there could be a very wealthy Dallas man who has a personal incentive to move this game to a different venue, who maybe also has a stake in the construction companies?
That Jerry
could this be by design? No, but here's my serious question, and I want you to evaluate this objectively as if you had no other context besides all your other experiences, but you have no nostalgia. Is the kick being a little bit later a little bit better for your fan experience at the fair before, or is it worse, or is it no change?
I don't like it.
It changes the sun angle at the game too, where one sideline gets absolutely rocked by the sun. The away sideline gets rocked.
We got roasted, man. That was bad. Like that. Yeah,
It's because it's shading the home team, and it's legitimately your home field advantage that way. Like Holly Rose said it on the TV broadcast. She was like, I tried my hardest to stay over on the Oklahoma side as long as I could, but I couldn't. And she finally made it over in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because the 2:30 kick.
It melts you. It's not good.
So you're 100% out. Because I will say that the pictures and stories you sent, it looked delightfully not too busy early on. But you're out on the later kick.
Yeah, we got there at a decent time, but I'm definitely out on the later.
No
kick.
Redeeming qualities.
Yeah, and it puts puts more strain on the dart. It's just not the right move. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Still love that game. Still had a great time at the fair.
Ooh, that's look at that.
WinStar puts a stadium.
Imagine if it bridged the river.
Something tells me that's a bad idea.
Yeah, you know what? That is what you call stopping and 40. Like the river is completely stopped. There's no more river.
No, literally bridging, not damming. We're bridging. It's going over the river. And I hate to say
that'll work.
We all know what the gift shop would be.
Oh Lord, we don't need that.
Let's talk about what we want to see going into the South Carolina game, because now I think that if there is a team on the rest of our schedule this year to have in this game, it's South Carolina, because vibes there are also really down. They played an LSU team this weekend, and LSU still continued to look a little bit disgusting, and South Carolina just didn't show a lot really to be happy about watching that game. So I think this is also a team that has a lot that they want to correct on too. This is not an Alabama that's starting to like peak and look really, really good. I think that this is a perfect game for us, but being on the road really push us. And I'm really excited to see how this team responds.
Likewise, and I think it's going to be the bellwether for how the rest of the season goes. If they show up and perform well, and win the game, then you could start feeling good. Especially in a pretty tough road environment. Typically, it helps that this one's at 11:45. So sandstorm and all that just probably won't hit the same. So I will say kind of a get back for South Carolina too. If they want to try to turn this thing around, a nice home game at Williams-Brice against an Oklahoma team, look at their wounds a little bit. Especially, get Dylan Stewart going a little bit, try to have it sick him against a pretty vulnerable offensive line, that's gonna be a challenge. So I think to me it's a very winnable game. It's a game with a lot of pitfalls. And I think we're gonna really find out what this Oklahoma team is. Are you great, good, or bad? And I think a lot of deficiencies will either come to light or a lot of improvements will come to light. So,
yep. Ty, have
intrigued.
you seen the spread for it yet?
No, but I can pull it up.
Check.
Or is this
No. I
prompt?
already know what it is. I want you to guess. What do you think the spread is for this game?
It's at South Carolina, 8.5.
Tell me, South Carolina minus 8.5. OU
No,
minus.
why would it be South Carolina minus 8.5?
I just want you to.
I would say OU. I mean, maybe 6.5 to 8.5 OU.
It's 4.5 OU.
Jeez.
4.5 OU. So Carolina's road dog, like home dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, it still shows a lot of optimism. I still think. I mean, you seem to have some significant optimism in this team, and obviously, maybe it's just more so negative towards South
against
Carolina.
South Carolina,
because we haven't really seen too much positive to take home from them, other than, I mean, they scrapped a little bit with Missouri. Missouri kind of had they were leading going into the fourth quarter, so you got to give it to them there. But other than that, there's not a lot to take home positive. And Oklahoma has plenty of things to take home positive, just other than the Texas game.
South Carolina, I think, is well coached enough that they're going to be able to see what they need to do to beat this OU team outright. They're just not going to be able to execute it, I think, that's the problem. And this is actually something I forgot to mention when we were talking about Texas, but really beyond the material, like injury speculation and everything else, there wasn't anything new that jumped out. It was like every problem that we ended up talking about. Obviously, there was a confluence of problems all at the same moment in the same game, but none of them were novel. And I think that's going to be the thing with the South Carolina game is I think we're going to produce a very consistent product. I think their defense just isn't going to be able to do the same things that Texas's defense was able to do as effectively. And I think that we're going to we're going to have a touchdown offensively in this game. I'm pretty safe.
That's your bold
I
statement.
I will dome a lemon as penance if we don't get at least 7 offensive points, which does count extra points, just to clarify, in this game.
I was about to say you're going to get hooked there.
Because I'm like, Blake is going to get me. Yeah, Blake's going to be like, that's a special teams point.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you would expect no matter what an offensive increase here just from getting John Mateer back into the system. He's gotten this game under his belt. He's going to have another week of rehab. He's going to get a little bit better. And where our offense goes, he hums with it. I understand the run game. I can't tell you that confidently, but I feel good that John Mateer will at least go out there and show us something.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a significantly easier situation to pass against this South Carolina offense, especially if you can get a little bit of time and you can find a way to kind of neutralize Dylan Sampson, and just it's gonna be interesting. But OU needs this one, and I'll put it this way: if you really want to look at it all, if you beat South Carolina on the road here, all you have to do, take care of home field, go 3-0 there. You're 9-3, and that should get you in the playoff.
Yeah, the LSU game's looking more and more winnable, honestly. Mm-hmm. Just the way that they've been playing. I mean, Ole Miss wasn't impressive. Ole Miss, the Washington State game, and I mean, obviously, I don't want to pump too much into this Oklahoma team right now, but you're right, Bobby. And this is also being at home is completely different than being at Red River.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a tough environment. It's an intimidating ass environment. And like you said, Texas is not a bad team. They've had really brutal moments, but cornered dog, fighting for your life. We've seen Texas come out of that all the time, and they put together a better plan. They had the better edge, and I don't know. I think the schedule daunting as hell, but it's a situation where this team's gonna have to figure it out. Obviously, offensively, pretty bad, but there's opportunity there if you can move on from this one and make sure it doesn't beat you twice and sort of put some stuff together.
Yeah, I think stopping Lenore Sellers will be the way to win this game. It'll be on the defensive end to go out there and put our offense in good positions early to succeed. We obviously have a lot of offensive deficiencies. I want shorter fields. I want opportunities for where we don't have to go 70 yards down the field. The two SEC games that I think I'm throwing out the Kentucky one, Missouri and LSU. I guess you throw out Vanderbilt too, because that Lenore Sellers got hurt in that. But the ones the Lenore Sellers played a full game in, not Kentucky. Those two big time matchups of LSU and Missouri, he got sacked 5 times each. So I'm hoping that our pressure actually converts into sacks by that time, and we can absolutely give a little bit more pain to a guy who wants to go out there and run and stretch the field a little bit more.
Yep, that's key to it. And find a way to hit him, get that pressure on him so he can't throw it up to Nick Harbor, who, should be, a decently difficult matchup problem for us, I believe.
Yeah, and Nick Harbor is really he's the flashy guy that everyone knows their name. But he's just good for a play or two every single game. And that could be the play that wins the game.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be it. Really what it comes down to, it's you got to go after the head of the snake. And that's Sellers, because they've got some other guys out there in the wide receiver room that are decent. I think that Vendravius Jacobs is the guy that I've seen the name the most whenever I watch their games. But I think that if we cannot give him the opportunity to let Nick Harbor get down the field, like you said, and run that fast speed, I would hate to see an 80-yard touchdown from him.
Right, because that type of stuff can break games, and with how dodgy the offense has been, yeah.
And OU's been good to give up a big play almost every single game. And I mean, versus Texas, did they have a huge play that they gave up? I'd say the Trey Wisner run was probably that punch in the face, that 35, 30
explosives.
Yeah. But it seems like Oklahoma is pretty solid and they might give up a big play. Let's hope that isn't. It's hopefully let's keep it in the run game and not in the passing game.
Well, and they didn't really, Texas didn't really beat us deep much, as far as I remember.
Well, that was partially schematic on their end, but it's the nature of college football too. Big plays, missed tackles are going to occur. It's kind of what helps separate it from the NFL in terms of on-field product as well, which I think it's a feature, not a bug, but it's definitely bites you.
Yeah, we got to tighten it up.
Definitely bites you.
Yeah, I hate to say that the defense is that's our key to success here. I see that as a way to put our offense in a winning position. So that's why you lean on your strengths. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not saying that the defense needs to do better, X, Y, Z. No, I just want to lean on our strength right now and say, what can the defense do to make our offense win this game?
Yeah. Create havoc, make it easy. Create havoc, make it easy on them. Don't let Lenore Sellers go on long drives, that sort of stuff. Make it easy on the defense by getting them off the field.
And I think South Carolina's defense is a significant step down from Texas. That is not a bold take in the slightest.
Right.
Texas defense is got some dudes. Anthony Hill is an absolute dude. Colin Simmons is a dude. Like Michael Taft is a dude. On South Carolina, they lost about 5 or 6 dudes in the draft last year. You know, they've got, Bobby, you already said Dylan Stewart is a dude, but whenever you just have one pass rusher, it is sometimes you can kind of hide it a couple times. You can put a tight end to chip him, or our running back comes up and chips him on every play. You can hide that guy and schematically, not just based off put your right tackle, put your left tackle on him and let him go to work.
Yeah. Carolina doesn't have the dudes Texas had, and they don't have Pete K, who is an insane defensive coordinator, I gotta say. So, all right, well, that's all we have for the Carolina deal. I might be throwing in a little Carolina special later, TBD. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I know for a fact we'll be back on Wednesday for the weekend spread to talk about the picks. So
that's all we're going to talk about, right, Ty?
I mean, who knows? You never know with Blake. But I will say I need to pull the clip and send it to Bobby so he can play it on the pod. But I did say that preseason, I said that if I could take Penn State under 8.5 wins, I would for my win total. But I was forced to take them at 10.5. And oh boy, I get one preseason pick a year. that I just nail, and then I do terrible on the weekend spread.
You just
So-
absolutely smited James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions.
I sacrificed my entire season's worth of ability to pick to just nail that pick. So-
And did you nail it? That's genuinely one of the most shocking meltdowns I've seen in my life from a program. So.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, we are excited for the weekend spread. We got a lot of good games to pick. Talk about some of the more games that have happened this past weekend that we didn't get to talk about, and some of the upcoming ones. And again, it's a terrible week for OU fans. It's not as bad as it feels, I promise, in retrospect, although there's no good way to lose to Texas. But the season's not over, and the sport itself continues to just deliver electric moments. There's a lot of really, really good games this weekend. Again, as a weekend. So I coping a little bit by referencing my Navy fandom here, but tremendous ending to that one to go for the one of us is walking out of here, walk off to a point where you either win outright or you lose outright. And so excited to talk about some more games that were a little bit more fun to watch than this OU game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys, let's wrap this thing up. Thank y'all so much for watching, either live on YouTube or on playback or on your favorite podcast app. If you like the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, rate us 5 stars. That helps us grow, helps us put out content. Always appreciate it. So until Wednesday, we'll see you next time. Keep the faith, everybody. And Boomer Sooner.